I didn't think I would say this, but the Washington Nationals own the Miami Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. You can find me on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And on today's show, I'm going to recap the first game. Just a horrible, horrible showing from the Marlins against the Nationals at Lone Depot Park, by the way. Quite honestly, it's embarrassing. Even at this point in the season, it's just, you look at the score, 15-7. The Nationals beat you by 8 runs. They put up 15. It's ridiculous. Edward Cabrera has resumed throwing. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. I found that to be interesting, to say the least. Jakob Marsee continues to slug, and Kyle Stowers, his rehab has been put on pause. He's in Miami to be reevaluated. But first, let's talk about this Nationals-Marlins game. And I usually don't, I don't harp on one game in particular at this point in the season. I know I talked about the overall grand scheme of things. The Marlins aren't playing good baseball. They have an 11-23 record since the Yankees series at the beginning of August, and they've fallen out of contention. That much is clear. But I still want to see some respectable outcomes. And the product that the Marlins put on the field, it's just bad. It's just bad baseball. And yeah, you could point to the 7 runs, I guess, as a positive, but 15 runs allowed. I mean, that's high school baseball. That's little league baseball. And against the Nationals, who you just got swept by a week ago. The way the Marlins lost, though, it's their pitching was just atrocious. Jansen Junk, I'm going to give him a pass because it was his first start off the injured list. And the first 4 innings really weren't too bad. It was the 5th inning in which everything unraveled. His final line, 4 1/3, 8 hits, 6 runs, all earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. But the first 4 innings, he only gave up 2 runs. But Junk gets into trouble, and then it's the pitchers who came after him that I just have a real problem with. And that's the reason you give up 15 runs, because the pitchers you're throwing out there, they're not major leaguers. They're just not. Seth Martinez, Josh Simpson, and George Soriano. At this point, with Simpson and Soriano, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. They're not good. Their ERA, both of their ERAs, start with a 9. Simpson has an even 9 ERA. George Soriano, his is approaching 10 now, a 9.85. All they do is give up runs. That's all they do. Simpson, 2 1/3, 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks. George Soriano didn't walk anyone in 3 1/3. It's not like it mattered, though. I mean, even with the game out of hand, the fact that the organization continues to keep this guy on the roster, it's beyond me. George Soriano, 3 1/3, 6 hits, 4 runs. He gave up a homer. Simpson gave up a homer. Like, at what point are we going to say Simpson and Soriano, we've seen enough? Like, legitimately, this is one of the storylines that I'm following, because you were playing some of the best baseball in the entire league a couple of months ago. And now you have an empty stadium. You're getting blown out at home to the Washington Nationals. It kind of feels like the players are checked out. It kind of feels like the manager is checked out, the front office is checked out, and everybody's kind of waiting for the offseason. But Josh Simpson and George Soriano, even if you want to give the argument that they're eating innings, that the game was getting away from the Marlins, which it had, to be fair, and I'm not going to deny that, you just have to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself this question: what redeemable quality do they offer to your organization as a pitcher? I mean, Soriano pitched in 2023 for the Marlins. Josh Simpson has been up and down now multiple times this season and is still getting innings. You know who I'd rather see get innings are the guys who have a chance to contribute in 2026. I'm starting to talk about 2026 a lot now, and there's a reason for it. Because from here until the end of the season, this is an evaluation period. You don't want to get embarrassed at home, but if you are getting embarrassed, if you're giving up these runs, I'd rather see Josh White in the majors facing major league hitters. I'd rather see him get his feet wet, get that cup of coffee before the end of the season. And I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I really don't. But wasting bullets out of the bullpen on guys who have no business being here, not now and not in the long-term plans of the organization, it's counterintuitive. And I'm tired of seeing this happen. And it feels like they pitch in pairs. If Simpson pitches, Soriano's going to pitch. If Soriano pitches, Simpson's going to pitch. That's just what it feels like, because the last time they pitched was this past weekend in the Phillies game, and they both threw on the same day. So I don't know. It's hard to look at the box score, the pitching staff in particular, and see these names and just take this team seriously. Because what are you doing? What are you doing? There were some positives though from this game. I'll start with Jakob Marsee. Marsee, couple extra base hits. What's new? His 12th double of the season. He also homered. Another home run. That's his 5th homer of the season. He's been spectacular. So good. So good. We're going to talk more about Jakob Marsee later in the show. How about Victor Mesa Jr.? 2 for 4, 3 RBIs, and a home run. Great to see VMJ get an opportunity and make the best of it. This is going to be important for him the rest of the season, because for VMJ, that outfield's starting to get pretty loaded in terms of depth. And he's a holdover from the previous front office. You know, he was a Jeter guy, him and his brother, Victor Mesa Jr., who actually Victor Mesa was the better of the two prospects coming out of the international free agency class. It was supposed to be Victor Mesa. Victor Mesa Jr. has been much, much better. Makes the major leagues way back. I think it was May. I want to say May. He made his major league debut. Very, very short-lived in San Diego, and then got sent back down. But he's up here. I want to see him get more playing time. Let it ride. Let the Marlins see what they got. That's tying it back to the bullpen. That's what it's about. There's no point in seeing Soriano. I know what he is. At this point, I know what Josh Simpson is. Even if he's a rookie, I know what he offers. Nothing. Victor Mesa Jr., I think, you're 24 years old. You've been in the system now for a while. You haven't really gotten an opportunity to play every day. Well, now it's September. These games, essentially, they don't really mean anything in terms of wins and losses. So make the best of your opportunity. Hopefully he gets some more at-bats the rest of the way. One guy who's going to be getting some more at-bats the rest of this season and hopefully for years to come is Jakob Marsee. And let me tell you, he is an excellent company. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. You got long queues, you got login screens, surprise fees. It can be complicated. So if you want to go to Lone Depot Park, you want to go check out the Marlins before the season ends, I encourage you to use Gametime. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. One of my favorite aspects of the Gametime app is the all-in pricing feature. There's no hidden fees. What you see when you hit checkout, that's the price you're going to pay. That number is locked in. There's no hidden fees, no extra numbers. You're like, how'd that get there? No, if it says $75, it's going to be $75. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. I appreciate all the everyday listeners who make listening, tuning in, watching Locked On Marlins a part of their daily routine. Over 2,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So it's only going upward from here on out. It's been a fun season. We got to close it out. If we're the Marlins fans, it's been an up and down year, but glad to do this podcast and appreciate those who tune in every step of the way. Jakob Marsee is an excellent company. Whenever your name is mentioned next to Barry Bonds, you've done something well. And this tweet from Marlins Communications today says it all. Through 37 games to start his career, Jakob Marsee has recorded 20 extra base hits and 10 stolen bases. He's the first Marlin to reach those numbers in the same span, and the first player in Major League Baseball to do so since Barry Bonds with Pittsburgh in 1986, who had 20 extra base hits and 13 stolen bases. Let that sink in for a second. Jakob Marsee is out here being compared to Barry Bonds, who some people will say the greatest hitter to ever live, the GOAT. Jakob Marsee's that guy. Hasn't slowed down at all since his debut. Of course, came up right at the beginning of August. I mean, his numbers they're just nutty. It's insane. He's hitting well over 300 still, 321 on the season. He's got 5 homers, has 12 doubles, a handful of triples. His on-base percentage, 395, and slugging 567 with an 11% walk rate. So a good, solid walk rate that I expect to even go up higher as he plays more in the major leagues. I mean, his walk rate in AAA this season was at a 15.9% rate. And historically throughout his minor league career, it's kind of hovered around that 15 to 17 range. Striking out 23% of the time. That's pretty much on par with last year, where he struck out 22.4. That's manageable. No problems there. The power, the speed, the defense, he checks every single box. And I can't stress to you enough, if you're the Marlins front office, if you're Bruce Sherman, this is your guy. This is who you want to lock up. You want a new era of Marlins baseball. You got to get identifiable players to become the faces of your franchise. For years, it was Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, it was Big G. That was the face of your franchise. He was Marlins baseball. They never made the playoffs with him. Then you go into the Jazz Chisholm Jr. era. Jazz makes the show, the video game cover. He's energetic. He's charismatic. He plays baseball with a with a flair and an energy to the game that gravitated fans. Jazz gets traded. Marlins make the playoffs once with Jazz. You start all over. You have a rebuild. You're trying to identify players who are going to be part of the future, but be Marlins. Not just for 3 or 4 years, but be Marlins. That the average MLB fan will look at a player, a star player, and say, oh, Jakob Marsee, yeah, he's a Marlin. It's not going to be another situation in which Giancarlo Stanton has been a Yankee for the last 8 or 9 years. And a lot of fans know Big G as a Yankee. If you ask a 10-year-old fan living in the Bronx about Giancarlo Stanton, let's just say last October, when he's hitting home run after home run in the playoffs, there's going to be kids that didn't know Stanton was on the Marlins. Miguel Cabrera. Oh, Miguel Cabrera was a Marlin? Yeah. Yeah, he was. World Series champion. But you're not going to remember him as a Miami Marlin because of the constant cycle of trading and rebuilding and cheapness by ownership. So sign Jakob Marsee to an extension. You don't have much to prove if you're Marsee. I think you've proved enough. The StatCast metrics, still there. He's still hitting the ball hard. He's still not chasing. He's still walking good. His expected batting average, his XWO, his xWOBA, all the advanced stats you want to look at, he's still checking every box as somebody that is a franchise style of player, a superstar in the making. And I argue he already is a star. So I would be talking with his agent as soon as this season ends to say, hey, here's the years we're going to offer you. Here's the amount of money. Just sign the dotted line. We want you as a Marlin. Because what he's doing right now, it's incredible. 152 plate appearances now. That's not a small sample size. Hitting .321. Over 300 is hard to hit in Major League Baseball. If you don't know that, ask Luis Arias, ask Xavier Edwards. It's really hard to do that. Now, of course, there is the aspect of, it's been a month and a half. He hasn't played a full season. But my argument to you is these tools that we're seeing Marsee exhibit over this month and a half, those aren't going anywhere. Marsee's still going to be a really good hitter, a really good defender, a great base runner who's going to steal you a lot of bags. What's not to like? The ball is completely in the Marlins' court when it comes to making sure Marsee stays a Marlin. But he's a slugger. He can be a franchise player, and he's a star. Now, coming up next, Edward Cabrera is throwing for the Marlins. He's throwing. Maybe he comes back before season's end. I'm going to give you my thoughts on this and if it means that he's going to return this season. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What are the Marlins doing? More about Edward Cabrera and his throwing program right after this. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, then Monarch is for you. And it does all the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. And who doesn't want to feel in control of your money? Everybody does. Everybody does. You can identify that you're not saving as much as you thought and get back on track and get your savings in order. Monarch Money is the way to go. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. A reminder, Locked On Marlins is on the YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching, but it's also on all the major podcast platforms, so you can listen to the show wherever you are. Edward Cabrera on the injured list with an elbow sprain. Initially, when this news broke, Craig Mish tweets out in a reply to someone that asked him a question, in most cases, this leads to Tommy John surgery. This puts his 2026 season in doubt. And I reacted to it on the show. I was saying, look, if worse comes to worse, this is going to be a huge blow to the Fish. And it still will be, because although he had an MRI, as far as I can tell, unless I'm missing something, I don't know what the result of that MRI is. So as far as I can see, there's really nothing definitive yet with Edward Cabrera and the future. It's kind of in no man's land. And so Clayton McCullough says that Edward Cabrera is resuming throwing because there's still inflammation in the elbow. He got a second opinion, and Cabrera said, I want to go out and pitch. So they're starting to throw Cabrera this week without knowing what's going to happen, how his body's going to respond. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. If there's still inflammation in the elbow, then why are you throwing? Why can't you get a definitive answer whether he needs Tommy John or not? That's what I don't understand. Because Sandy Alcantara, the same kind of thing a couple of years ago. Earlier in this season, Corbin Burns hurt his elbow, and for a couple of days it was in doubt. Is he done? Is he going to get Tommy John surgery? And now it's revealed that he is. But for Cabrera, he went on the IL September 1st. That's 9 days ago. And we still don't have a definitive answer whether he's going to be good or not, good to go. I'm going to quote this from an article on MLB.com, Christina De Nicola. She said, asked whether this plan of action would test whether the elbow could hold up or whether an alternate path would need to be taken if it didn't, McCullough elaborated. And McCullough said, it's going to be somewhat just how he responds with the throwing. That him just taking time and not doing anything is not going to change what the long-term outlook of this is. And him throwing really isn't either. He wants to give it a go and wants to throw and just see how his arm feels after he starts to ramp up the intensity. I think we're just going to have this very much be a day-to-day type thing as the intensity increases and how he feels with everything. Okay. So he's not good right now, but we don't really know how his body's going to react to throwing until he's throwing one day and he's like, yeah, I'm done. That's what I read this as. So Cabrera, it's like, I mean, I want to see him back, but at this point in the season, there's really no rush to. I just want an answer. I don't want this to be a scenario that's dragged out and they're trying to push him to do something that's not going to work. So maybe the doctor said something like, you don't need it right now, but you got to pitch, you got to throw, you have to see how the arm reacts before, when you're at high intensity, you're throwing off a mound, you're throwing 75 feet or whatever it is, to make a final determination to see if your arm can hold up. Because I just don't like the sound of throwing while your elbow has inflammation. That sounds completely counterintuitive. Like I said, it's going to be a big blow if Cabrera misses 2026. And honestly, I'm kind of expecting it at this point because I just don't see how this works out positively. If you're non-committal to whether he's going to end up getting Tommy John surgery or not, that is a bad sign to me, at least on my end. I don't like the sound of that at all. You're not committal to one way or another. Feels kind of like you're shooting some darts in the dark and you're hoping that maybe his elbow holds up during these high intensity throwing sessions. That's kind of my perspective on it. Hey, I guess it can't hurt, but maybe you're prolonging the inevitable as well. Kyle Stowers, his rehab has been on pause. Isaac Azut over on Twitter said that this was yesterday. Stowers is back in Miami to get reevaluated. He wasn't in Jacksonville's lineup the last 2 days. He was supposed to start rehab this week. I think he was supposed to start a rehab game on Sunday. Yeah, I believe No, Saturday. So this past weekend he was supposed to start. But now he's back in Miami. If you got to shut him down, shut him down. I don't have a problem with not rushing a player back. That's kind of where I am with Cabrera too. Like, you could do this throwing program, but do you really need Cabrera back on the mound when you have your elbow is inflamed? Do you need Stowers back out here when you're about to get passed by the Braves in the standings? I mean, yeah, it would be nice, but you got to get healthy. For Stowers, he's got to get healthy. That's the priority because you don't want any lingering effects to affect, from your injury to affect your off-season workouts, your off-season regimen, your swing, anything like that. So he was supposed to start rehabbing, must have suffered a setback. He's back to go get reevaluated. Don't like the sound of that. If I'm being honest, I expect that he's going to get shut down. And that would be the end the end of Kyle Stowers' season. But we'll see. Hopefully he comes back. I just don't want anything to be rushed. That's kind of where I am when I'm viewing Kyle Stowers and his comeback. It's like, I don't want to say pointless, but there's really no need to rush anybody back at this point. Marlins have 3 more against the Nationals. Hopefully they can go out and win a couple of them. I mean, the Nationals, like I said, have won the last 4, including yesterday's just barn burner, putting up 15 runs. Adam Major is going to start today on Tuesday, so that'll be interesting. Originally scheduled to start Sunday, his start got pushed back. So for him, back end starter, again, opportunity. Try to give yourself a chance to make the organization think about you. Make them remember your name. That's really what it comes down to. I don't want to say low expectations, but not a ton of expectations I have for Major in particular. But the bigger matchup this week for the Fish, the bigger series, you have the first place Tigers coming into town this weekend, and it could be Sandy versus Scooble. That would be a great pitching matchup. Cy Young winner versus Cy Young. But I got Thursday's game, the final game of this national series, circled because Ryan Weathers is coming back. He's been on the injured list for a long time now, and he's healthy now. He's going to come back into the rotation and try to pick up a few starts before the season comes to a close. I'm on board with that. It's good for him because he's waited so long to come off the injury list, and he's healthy. But when there's questions about health, like Stowers, like Cabrera, sometimes you just gotta, pack it in and move on. We're right at the end of the season. You don't want to aggravate anything. You don't want to make it worse. I'm excited for Ryan Weathers' return. I still have high hopes for him as a frontline starter for the Marlins. I hope Edward Cabrera is okay. I just want to close the show by saying that. It gives me hope, a little hope that he's throwing, but his elbow still has inflammation. So that worries me. I'm just scared it's going to be one of these situations like Sandy from 2023. I'm going to wrap it up here. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. I appreciate everybody tuning into the show. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.